Welcome to Insight with Moonshadow, everyone. I am Moonshadow, an integrative holistic therapist, intuitive interfaith minister, and chief evangelist, with over 30 years of experience in the healing field here in the U.S. as well as internationally. The purpose of Insight with Moonshadow is to share, to learn, and to teach, and to guide you to become a better you for yourself, as well as a better you in the world. So it's something that I've done radio before as well, but with live streaming, this was an easy transition to go into this type of thing and going onto YouTube and that kind of deal as well. So it's a good, excellent adventure to continue. And this happens to be episode 23. So I've actually been doing this for 23 episodes, and it's pretty cool to say that at this point, 23 episodes later, that it's still going real well, and you guys are still here. So that's awesome. Hey, welcome, Carl. So now today's topic is a very interesting topic. And with this particular topic, a lot of times what ends up happening is that we as people, some people, they bottle things up. Some people, they let things go too quickly. Some people don't process things right away. You know, there's a lot of times where we don't necessarily have closure, or we don't necessarily express ourselves fully. So now when this happens, a lot of things can happen. There's a lot of dis-ease that can happen. You can get very ill from it. You know, you can get all kinds of, you can get a laundry list of dis-ease and illness just by keeping things held in and not expressing yourself. So today's episode is the power of journal writing. There are so many different methods of journal writing, and you could look it up in so many different ways. Oh, thank you. I'm glad it's on. I'm glad the audio is great. And fingers crossed on Blab being in agreement so I can actually do and finish and work out well. So hopefully the tech gods work in our favor. Hey, Ariel. Yeah, exactly, right? So, but yeah, with journal writing, it's something where I have found there was a lot of times where I couldn't figure things out. And then I also couldn't ask someone for advice at the particular time. So I went into actually writing things out and writing things down. Like I know Anna's a big writer. She likes writing things in her notebook, you know. So journal, I'm very much not surprised that Anna is here today, because she is quite the avid writer, and she expresses herself through writing and through writing lists and things and little bits of information, all of that. Yep. It's a true story for Anna. So she's quite adept at it. Now, the great thing about journal writing, it's more than just having a diary. It's more than just getting your thoughts on the page. There are so many other reasons and other techniques that you could utilize journaling for. You can manifest with journaling. You can have a gratitude journal. You could have the opposite. You can have a crap journal. Things you want to get rid of. You know, one of my friends calls it her junk journal, and basically she just writes everything out in this junk journal. All the things that just have been plaguing her and bothering her and aggravating her, she'll just write in a journal, and she'll write and 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 write until she's done writing. You know, so that's also a very, very powerful technique as well. It's like venting on paper. Exactly, Anna. And while you're doing that, while you're writing all of this, you will find yourself feeling relieved. You'll find yourself feeling a lot more, it's a very cathartic therapy to do. And if in the event that you have unfinished business or lack of closure with someone, what you can utilize journaling as well for that. writing versus video blogging is the same. Well, some people will utilize video blogging, or, like a post on Medium or a regular blog. They will utilize that also in a way. But when they're utilizing that for other people to see, it's because they really want to put it out there for people to see. So it really depends on how you want to view your aspect of how you want to journal. Like, as much as I'm pretty much an open book, and quite a few of you know me personally, but there are things that I haven't told a lot of people, as all of us probably have. We have our shadow side. We have things that are in a deeper level that very few may know or hear about. So that being said, it's something where in journaling you could actually write things out. Well, yeah, exactly. And just because you're an open book, or you can be an open book, it does not mean that you need to share every little aspect of yourself. That in itself is self-care. So that is another version of self-care. Like, if someone, say for example, let's just say I had words with, which I never have, by the way, on the record, never have. But let's say I had words with Anna, and I wasn't really pleased with how it turned out. Now, instead of sitting there going, okay, I'm going to talk to Anna right now when I'm heated and I'm upset, instead of doing that, I write it down. Write down my thoughts. How did Anna make me feel? What feelings were going through me when Anna said what she said? How could, what was I accountable for? That kind of thing. And then when you find yourself writing it out, sometimes when you read it, and that's exactly why I singled her out, because Anna and I have never had an issue. And I don't ever foresee us ever having an issue. Knock on wood. But the thing is here is that sometimes when you are heated or you are upset, you don't really want to talk to that person just yet. You want to hold on to that a little bit. You want to be able to rationalize a little bit prior to, because sometimes when you're overheated, you can't unring that bell. You just can't unring that bell. So if I go ahead and go off on a rant, and if I go ahead and be nasty towards someone, and they weren't the person that needed to hear it, well, guess what? Again, you can't unring that bell. You can't unsay what you said. So then it causes some serious problems. Now, with Ariel saying, if you suffer from hand pain, do you think typing it out can be just as effective? Absolutely. You don't necessarily have to write it out. Okay? You don't necessarily, you could use an audio recorder. There are so many different methods and so many different ways to be able, and you could do your own kind of like vlog or blog without people having to hear it. There are private methods of you to be able to record things, record things as a video journal, and you leave it, in a folder. Welcome, Q. And you could leave it in a folder on your desktop. So there are so many different ways of journaling. And when you do journal, and when you get the things that are inside you out of your body, out of your mind and your body and your spirit, then that gives you a little more of an ability to really utilize what was really going through your mind. So it's almost like, right. So it's almost like talking to your higher self, or connecting with it, or rationalizing something out before. Once you rationalize it out, before you talk to that person, or before you need that. And sometimes we just need to clarify or figure out what's going on in our own mind. So like journaling, you can, with that, Like, I know Q's a big fan of lists, loves her lists. If you want to stay on track with something, that is also a form of journaling, or getting things out, right? So, but the thing with journaling is a creative and therapeutically healthy way to get things out of your mind and out of your spirit, so it doesn't cause problems. It doesn't cause an issue where it stops you up. Like, a lot of you have heard me use the term, and I don't believe I've coined it, but it's possible that I may have, but emotional constipation. Sometimes people just get all bottled up. They get all stopped up, and they don't necessarily know how to get it out. So what happens? They take it out on the wrong people, or they take it out on the street, or they take it out on their butcher. Emotional constipation. Oh yeah. And it's true story. Now, sometimes too, for the more ritualistic person, they're going to write it down as opposed to typing it, and that's okay. I have done different types of journaling. I've written down, pen to page. I've also done it digitally as far as recording it. I've, done a lot of different ways of doing it, and a lot of the things I've done were also, like, I've written poetry and music on toilet paper, napkins, receipts, so that, and it's also in itself putting yourself out there and being creative and getting whatever's inside you outside of you. It is a form. And also too, earlier on another show that I was just popping in on earlier, they were talking about mindfulness. Mindfulness is key here. So in utilizing them, you're being more mindful as you journal, right? So now let's just say you've had a really, really crap day, and it's 2:00 in the morning, and you don't have someone that's up nocturnally. Well, some of you know of nocturnal people that are up all hours, but what can you do? Do you want to hold on to this? Do you want to bottle this stuff up? Do you want to let this stuff get to you? So then someone just walks up to you. You can have your wife, your husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, kids walk up to you and say, "Hi, mommy, hi, daddy." And all of a sudden, "What do you want?" It's like, whoa, wait a minute. You just took all that crap onto your kid. Your kid just said hi, and you're jumping all over it. So if you really look at it from that perspective, getting things out, because this is where a lot of people don't realize that a lot of things happen. Yes, there's a lot of times there's mental illness involved with a lot of the atrocities that have happened. Right. And I agree with you completely, Aliman. A lot of times we will physically, sometimes we verbally, sometimes we physically, psychically dump on other people. And that's never fun. Okay, and Carlos here, he said you have the luck of short-term memory, so you can't bottle things up. Oh yeah. Yeah, wait, what am I talking about? Well, that's very true. Well, that's a benefit to short-term memory, Carlos, for sure. And normally, and I will agree fully with Q, being mindful. When you are mindful and you say, look, I have friends, and there are a couple in this room. Yes, and they'll be like, "Hey, you got a minute?" And they just literally vent. Everything is spewed out. So in a way, at those precious moments in time, I'm like a journal. If someone calls up and just wants me to listen, and then at the end of it, it's like, "So what do you think about this, and that?" So in the power of journal writing, it's not just, it's really creatively getting things out. Also, I know of a couple of artists that when they want to get things out, when they want to work cathartically, therapeutically, they want to release a lot of this pent up energy. They will either go to the gym, which you can do that on a physical level, but you can also do artwork as well. So all of these things really, really matter. A lot of times what I would do in my past relationships, I would come in with a disclaimer already. I would come in with this disclaimer. I would walk in and say, honey, I'm sorry. I just had I had a shit day today. So if it seems like I'm not me, I'm not, because I've had a really bad day, but just give me some time. Everything will be fine. And then you kind of do what you got to do. You release it, you work it out, you can journal it, you can write it down, that kind of thing. And then, life goes on at that point. You've released that pent up possible negative storm of things that are going through you. Now Chuck's saying it isn't the time element, but the physical transformation of thought through senses, right? And a lot of times people do I think pretty quickly. So if I was to write every single thing that I was thinking, I can honestly tell you, whenever I've written a letter when I was really, really upset and I was emotionally writing, wow, that's all I can say. Because reading it after the fact, like when you're heated or when you're upset, that's a whole different ball game. That's a whole different thing. So usually then you probably have to write a second letter because the first letter is just to get everything in check, get everything out. And then the second letter is going to be a little bit more refined. Yes, and I agree completely, Alaman. Never hit send immediately. And that's another tidbit too. That's another little moonsight for you guys. If you're going to email someone, I would suggest journaling first or writing the email, but do not hit send. Put it in a Word document. Put it, don't put their name and address line. Exactly. If you need to vent in one way or another, that's okay. Put it in a document. And don't hit send. Because again, going back again, you can't unring that bell. You can't take it back. Even if that person is you are so apologetic and you're like, I'm really sorry. I called you whatever. I'm really sorry. Guess what? Those words are going to resonate in that person. They'll never forget it. They can say they will. They may forgive you, but to be forgotten, to forget those words are going to be incredibly difficult. And also, too, as Andrew's writing, emotions aren't always lined up with the facts of the situation. You're very true. That is very right, because what happens is if something happened to us in the past and we are now reacting to something that happened in the past, so this new situation is a reminder of the past. It may not even be as bad as what happened in the past, but what happens? We just go off the reservation. We just lose the plot. And did that person actually need to be subjected to that part? So that's also the part of being mindful and saying, there's a way of expressing yourself without it turning into a big, huge war of words. Okay, like Ariel is saying, when I was younger living with my parents, whenever my mom and I would get mad at each other, we'd sit and write letters to each other to better verbalize what we're thinking, rather than saying things in the heat of the moment. And I agree. Another little moonsight for you guys is think 5 seconds. If you can think 10 seconds, think 5 seconds before you say something in anger. 5 seconds, I'll tell you, is a long time. Let's just think about this. 5 seconds, okay? 5 seconds, they say 1 Mississippi is a second, right? So if I'm silent for 5 seconds, that was 5 seconds. That's a long ass time, isn't it? Right? Count to 10 if you're really angry, right? Yep. And Q saying my ex would only be receptive to messages if I emailed them. Right. I can never talk to him. Hence, he's my ex. That's right. But see, that's the thing. Now, granted, at least there was some form of communication. So I'm going to look at the silver lining there. But the whole point is, if that was the only way to communicate, and I know somebody, it's not a friend of mine, but a mutual acquaintance of a friend of mine. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, that I won't follow. Right. You're absolutely right, Q. But the thing is, there's one friend of mine that has a friend that does not communicate at all, has to write letters. Now, in a little bit of a way, and this is, I will say this, that is a little bit of a cop out. Adapting is kind of important. You know, it's an important thing. So if you can only wait till someone writes a letter, in a way that's a little bit of a cop out, because now the other person may read the letter, but when they want to talk about it, you're like, no, I can't talk about it. Write me another letter. So it can get a little bothersome. So if it's an agreed method, fantastic. If it's not an agreed method, then guess what? They become a former ex really quickly. In the case of Q the brand. Thank you. So this is a big part of it. Just recently, I had words with someone, and I'm like, and I really focus on being zen, you know, as close to 100% of the time. And then you have comments from someone, and they go, basically, since you don't adhere to what they do or how they do things, then they have labels for you, and they say they have their own version of words to tell you. Then you have to kind of be mindful and thoughtful about it and say, are those words my words, or are these words, do they lack a bottom? Are they just empty words? So you have to think about that too. So Anna's saying here, sometimes I have my hubby listen, but don't fix to some problems. Right. So you can vent. And again, also too, that's also a big communication skill, even with journaling, whether it's writing, whether it's communicating, it's important. I've actually had friends say, hey Moon, can I vent with you? Because they know I'm someone that wants to troubleshoot and wants to fix, right? I want to give advice. I want the person to do better. I want them to do well. But a lot of times, if you just let someone vent, it goes away. It dissipates very quickly. One of my best friends, we will vent with each other. And we will probably vent for a good 5 minutes. And then after like 5 minutes, maybe 6, 7 minutes, it's like, oh, I'm so sick and tired of hearing myself talk about it. So how's your day? so that is a really big thing. So yeah, and I agree, Marissa, that with spouses and partners, it is a bit different. It's a little more. It can be a little more complicated, depending on what level of communication and how you communicate. But sometimes it's so important for you to write things down a little bit, jot down a few notes. If you're really upset about something, kind of throw down keywords. All of these things are really a good way, a good technique to get these out of your system and able to communicate in a more efficient and a better way, in a not so reactive way. So now I understand that she had to learn to have her dad listen first when she was a teen. Not every parent listens to their teens. Exactly. And I agree completely, Carlos, is you should never vent in anger. You should always wait. You should communicate. And again, if you actually do it mindfully, it doesn't take too long. I would take a walk. I'd be like, I don't want to say anything I don't want to mean. I don't want to, say anything out of anger. I don't want to say something I don't really truly mean, and I don't want to purposely try to hurt you just because I'm hurting. So I'll be right back. So I'd take a walk. I'd do some breathing, and then I'd come back, and okay, this is the deal. So a lot of this with journal writing, this is really key in you being a better person and you being able to improve yourself as a communicator, as a spouse, as a daughter, brother, sister, boyfriend, all of it. Also, too, there are a lot of books that have been written from journaling. So they started out by just writing things on a page, and they turned out to be books, or songs that were written from journal posts, or from writing something down on a page, or recording a riff. So journaling isn't necessarily just in the fact of writing. It could be so many different avenues and ways of expressing yourself. Some people express themselves through food. And we have a couple of people in the room, one person in particular that expresses herself through food. But also, too, you can express yourself. Yeah, you can do a food fight, too. You can do a food fight. It can get a little messy, and you know what? And if you love the person you're having a food fight with, then it can get really fun and playful. But that's for a whole different other blab and a whole different other topic. But there's a way to express yourself. That is a definitely, yeah, exactly. And that will not be vocalized, Carlos. Thank you very much. Yeah. So with journal writing, my suggestion for you is to have more than one journal. You can have a junk journal, so you can just throw everything out there, and like a garbage journal. You can just write everything that's on your mind. You just want to get it out of your system. You want to get it out of your mind. You want to get this toxicity out of your system, right? Yeah, like a brain dump. You could, like a download, a record journal. You can have it. You don't even have to read it. You don't have to edit it. Now, granted, with a brain dump or the record journal or the crap journal, whatever you want to call it, those are the journals that you don't even never have to read again. As a matter of fact, I had one journal that I did that to. I had actually never read what I wrote in it, and I was tempted one day. So I used that as kindling for a fire pit. No joke. That's what I did. I just took it, ripped pages out, used it as kindling, because those words, I never wanted those words to ever be uttered again. I wanted them to be gone. I wanted them to be vapor. Well, there you go. You can flush it. So granted, it's a very eclectic way of using toilet paper, but you know what? If it works for you, fantastic. You could flush it. You could do so many different ways of doing it. But I would suggest putting together a crap journal. You can have a gratitude journal. What are you grateful for today? You can have a high-low journal, where just in the journal, just as high-low points of your day. You can write just the high point of my day was such and such. The low point of my day was such and such. That you can read back. You can learn about coping skills. You can really build on who you are from journaling and from writing. Some of my best work was when I was actually very upset and writing it down. Exactly. So having a gratitude journal, having a crap journal, I have a couple of friends that have more than one journal, and they all have their different purposes, and they just have a gratitude journal where what they're grateful for that day or that week, they'll write it down. You don't have to write every day. You don't even have to write every week, but my suggestion is write regularly and write often. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of times, if you don't get it out soon enough, it's going to stick to you. So just imagine having sticky paper on you, and you pull off the sticky paper, right? Now you've got the sticky residue on your hands. So now you go pick up something else. Now everything is sticking to your hands. So in the same instance, if you're doing that, try to get it out when it's at that moment. There's something called primal screaming. Now that you got to kind of watch out for your neighbors. You need to kind of be in a soundproof room, but that is also cathartic. You know, exactly. And as Anna says, we want our content to be sticky, not the emotions. There you go. And Carlos usually takes he walks away, takes a nice nap. He gets the idea for a painting. And that is fantastic. As a matter of fact, that is this is slightly askew from the topic. However, there was an artist I heard about that utilized people's remains. When people passed on the ashes, they used ashes in paint, and they basically would make a painting in honor of the deceased, of the loved one, and then they can hang the painting up on the wall. Is that who it is? It could be. I forgot who that was. Hey, Stephanie. But the great thing, no, you don't have to do that, Carlos. That's not a prerequisite. But that's yet another way of coping, honoring, and expressing yourself, right? So that being said, all of this really makes a difference. Writing down a word, a paragraph, something, so people that don't need to hear it will still, and there's another method too. Let's say you have unfinished business with someone. Say it's someone that you wouldn't have closure any other way. It'd be highly unlikely that you would ever talk to them face to face. So what do? Do you have to stew and pine about this situation forever and ever and ever? Actually, no, you don't. You don't have to. You write it down. You write them a letter. You tell them everything you want to tell them. Everything you've wanted to say. Whether it be mad, angry, happy, sad, whatever it is. You can admit that you miss them. Even though you really don't want to admit that because they'll show up. Whatever that may be. And then you light it up. You send it to their higher self. And then you get closure that way. So all of that makes a difference. So even though I'm specifically talking about writing, journal writing or typing or something to that degree, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't record it. Doesn't mean you can't get it out a different way. Especially in this day and age of the digital landscape, you can have a vlog, a private vlog that's only on your computer. You can do that digitally if you think real fast. Sometimes if I'm really upset, I will record it. And then after I'm done, I'll delete it. Or you can scream. Yes, that painting the scream. But all these things really are strong. You must, yeah. You must bleep. Now recording. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And honestly, that's something where, let's look at the shadow side of not journaling, not expressing yourself. These are some of the things that can happen to you if you do not let things out of your body. You're going to cause yourself trauma and stress. Now, stress is in itself a very powerful thing. Stress can cause cancer, impotency, hair loss. It can produce skin conditions. It can produce allergies. It can produce crazy high blood pressure. It can produce all kinds of things that are not going to be helpful to you. So in carrying this burden with you, and also too, it can also make you gain weight. Believe it or not, it can also make you gain weight. Because I had a few clients that they were emotional eaters. And when I helped them cope with what was going on, and I helped them express themselves in multiple different ways and techniques, they start dropping weight. What's that all about? But it was because they were holding on to things. No different than you're pumping weight. No different than you're pumping iron. You're lifting weight. Your muscles got to get bigger. You also can become very bigger with worry. So that's also a big aspect of it as well. So now, why should we journal regularly? It keeps you more mindful. It's a mindful therapy. Even if you go ahead and designate to yourself to journal 5 minutes a day, you get 24 hours in a day, so 5 minutes isn't much. I actually know a couple of people that will journal for an hour a day, and they don't stop until the hour's done. I've also known writers to do the same. They'll say, you know what? I'm going to write for 2 hours, no matter what. Even if it's, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write. But they write. Say, for example, you have nothing to be grateful for. Nothing really happened. It's been a non-eventful day. What would you write? What would you journal? You can write, well, today was a non-eventful day. However, I would have liked if this happened and that happened, and I'm trying to manifest this to happen and that to happen. And you could be grateful for a quiet day or for a break. But that's still writing. You're still getting these things out. You're still expressing yourself the best you can, even if there's not a whole lot to say. It may be, 3 sentences as opposed to, a novel. So that also can be the case. Now, Dawn Marie is saying here that I can never imagine a day that I didn't have something to be grateful for. If I'm breathing, I'm grateful. I agree. But if you're in a dark enough place, it's harder to be grateful. And that's why you have a crap journal. That's when you have a crap journal. Because then at that point you can go into your gratitude journal from that point forward. So this is something where you would think a lot of people, it sounds like a really simple thing. It sounds so simple. It's like, why don't people do it? They got too many things to do. They got too much work. They have this and that to do. However, they always have time to check Facebook. Yes, I did say Facebook. They always have a minute to do that, right? It's all about adding it to your normal, regular, everyday mentality or your everyday activity. There are people that work out 3, 4, or 5 times a week. Add journaling to it. Add writing something. I admit I don't write every day, but I try to write once a week. Towards the end of the week, either I'm writing something that's gone on, kind of like a brain dump kind of situation, or the beginning of the week where I'm looking forward to things and trying to manifest. And that's another way you can do things too, a manifesting journal. You can have a gratitude journal, but you can also have a manifesting journal. This is what I'm allowing and inviting into my life at the present time. This is what I want to happen. It's happening now. These are the people who I want to connect with. All of that makes a difference. So in looking at journal writing as a method of being mindful and healthy, there's so many dividends. There's so many results, and you get amazing results by it. Body, mind, and spirit. Plus also this way too. there's also, I know one person that actually shares a journal. And this is kind of like journal. It's kind of like doing the vlog thing where you're having other people can see it, they can read it, they can hear it. But there's a journal sharing. Now, I did this with a group of people, and this was very, very interesting. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Aliman. There's some information. Penzu is private journaling, and there's a little app as well. So that's cool. So Penzu, because we don't always get the chat here, and this goes up to YouTube and my website. So if you look up Penzu, Penzu, for private journaling. And thank you very much, Aliman, for that. But also, in the process of journaling and getting things out and being more expressive with yourself, you are literally practicing more mindfulness. It's almost like meditation in a lot of ways. And I can understand the different things you can do. You can share it to people, and you can keep it to yourself. One group I worked with, we had a group journal. And every week, what we would do is everyone in the beginning, prior to us starting, everyone would write in this journal. Everyone would write in it. And yes, Anne is very good at writing tidbits. If there's any autobiographical things about our small group, Anne would probably know. More than likely. Yeah. But see, the shared journal idea, what that was from the beginning of the series of the workshops and classes of what we would do. Hey, Clarissa, welcome. Well, what we would do is everyone would write their thoughts on how they were experiencing what was going on with all the work that we were doing. So everyone was able to read the person prior to what they wrote, and then they would continue. So at the end of it, we basically took it and put it in a fire pit and burned it. But it was something where it was giving gratitude back to learning everything that we all learned. So that's what we did. So it's kind of like bonding the people together as a group. So that's a big part of it as well. So now, are there any methods that you guys utilize to journal? I know that she's quite a writer. She writes quite a bit. I know Cindy's also quite a writer as well. So now, if you'd like, you can share it in the chat. How do you journal? How do you express yourself? Like just recently, just today, a little bit ago before I came on here, I read Q's Medium post, which I recommended. And it makes you think. It's good to actually challenge in a positive way, help people think. That's something that's important. There are a lot of YouTubers that do the same thing. They get their stuff out there for a lot of people to read and see and experience and share. And is it wrong? Absolutely not. Vlogs are nice because, when you're using from a digital perspective, you don't have to write everything down. It's a bit easier for you. And we're having Q coming in. Welcome, Q.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you? Sorry, I have my their specs on.
No problem. So what is your methods on how you express yourself with journaling or getting yourself out there? And by the way, that Medium post was very good. I had to read it like before I started my show.
Oh, that's good. I mean, because it was just like message and then you can't.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
You're back.
I'm at the Henry, of course. So yes, I'm glad you liked the Medium post. I was inspired by Gary, and then of course by David. So must learn to type, Anna. So I wanted to come on because it's easier for me to say this than it is to write it down in the chat. And I am an example of someone who does not journal. I used to journal as a kid. In fact, I used to write music about love, and that was embarrassing to look at as a, as a young adult. I'm like, what is a 9-year-old or a 6-year-old know about love? But it's because I grew up with Barbra Streisand and Celine Dion and such. But that was
a 6 and 9-year-old can know a lot about love, not adult love, but they know a lot about love in their own way.
Yeah. So it was interesting, but I don't do it anymore. And so now, because I think I have severe ADD, because there's so much like I want to do, or I get distracted really easily, I thrive on, hey, Luke, I thrive on sounding boards. So people like you, I'm going to just raise my hand and say, this guy was talking about me. I'm like, Moon, I got to talk to you. People like you, good friends like you, that's what I thrive off of sounding boards, and I think it's more efficient. When I write things or do things like, make shows is, doing the marketing therapy shows or cue the news used to be a form of therapy for me. It used to be my journaling, because I could just ramble on about whatever the heck was going on in my head and make it a productive conversation, and that was rewarding. I think now that I'm so used to having another side, another aspect, I can't journal because I need that feedback.
Right. And sometimes too, when you journal, it's like the next level, it's the next generation, the next step. So I write less than I used to. The funny thing about that is, though, I do a show every week. And in a way, this is like my vlog in a way, because things that happen to me that the week, or things I'm thinking about, I share with all of you. So that's also part of it as well. So it's expressing yourself in however you need to, for you to be as healthy as you can be.
Yes. I mean, I think, we train ourselves to be a certain way. I'm sure if I retrained myself to do that, but I spend a lot of time by myself. So the last thing I want to do is write to myself.
I can understand that. That's one thing. You could run away from anyone, anything. The one thing you can't run away from, the reflection in the mirror. So I can completely understand that. So that's when, for the sake of sounding like a crazy person, that's when you have a quick little chat with yourself and saying, you know what? I need to get my head out of my ass and I need to do something, because something's wrong and I need to figure out how to get out of this mess. If you need a soundboard, that's great at that point, but it's good to get it out as opposed to keeping it in.
Yes, that is true, because if not, then you're going to dump on someone, and it might not be intentional.
Yeah, or implode. Imploding also is possible, and then we don't want moon bits or qubits everywhere, because that would just be a mess.
That's happened, though. I always say don't have a Mariah Carey meltdown.
Well, yeah, Mariah Carey
she was like stripping on television.
Yeah, Mariah Carey, she was like notorious and infamous for her meltdowns.
Yes.
If she thought 10 seconds before she had the meltdown, it probably wouldn't have been a meltdown.
Well, but see, she was so far gone that she couldn't have those 10 seconds. They just were not possible, Yeah.
So very true.
But wanted to contribute.
Well, thank you very much, Q. And it's always great for you to pop in and share your wisdom as well.
Thank you for having me. I'll be back over there.
Awesome. Thank you. And definitely do catch Q's Medium post. If you have Medium, you can go on my Medium posts from my website, moonphoenixrising.com. I have not written anything on my Medium post yet, but I do have a recommended medium, and that is Q's You're Gonna Die. So you want to check that stuff out. It sounds so much worse than what it is. After you get past that, it's good. So definitely want to check that out for sure. But honestly, this is just something that, to utilize expression, you know, in this case, we're talking about journal writing, but to express yourself via getting it out of your system, doing something cathartic to get out of your system is the way to go. Whether it be painting, whether it be music, whether it be screaming into a pillow, whatever it is. It's really, really important to have a normal, regular practice of doing these things. Because if you do, then instead of having a Mariah Carey meltdown, you're going to be able to take a breath, think a few seconds before you say something that you will probably seriously, absolutely, viscerally regret. Now, I'm someone that I try not to regret anything, and I don't have many regrets in my life. However, the few regrets I do have, I could have thought 5 seconds before making them. So that's a big part of it as well. So what did we learn about today? Bottling stuff in is not going to help you. Not speaking up or not communicating isn't going to help you. It's going to make you sick. A lot of these things can make it worse than better. And also, in the heat of the moment, don't say something that you don't mean, because if you say it not meaning it, it's not going to be able to be unsaid. And we learned we're all going to die. Yeah, pretty much. Is that Angel Eyes Dawn Marie? Who is that? I think I saw someone pop in. Oh, that was Kathy. Oh, Kathy, nice to see you. That almost looked like someone else I know, another Dawn. Now, Marissa's also recommending this form of letting out your frustrations. And there's a YouTube video there. You guys in YouTube land and Phoenix Rising land will not be seeing it. However, I may end up putting it onto my site, and you could check it out. And thank you very much for the love and hearts and props and all that good stuff, Kathy. I'm now merging this from Periscope, Blab, and everything else. Absolutely. Oh yeah, we can put in the show notes. I got peeps now. Oh, it's an explicit YouTube. All right. We'll have a production meeting afterwards. But thanks for the heads up, Marissa. I appreciate that thoroughly. Oh, you can curse in the chat, and after I stop recording, I have no problem. Oh, you have to go. Well, pleasure. Thank you very much for popping in. Oh, she's like, no, I'm not going to go. Oh, if you can't curse. No, it's not an issue. Well, as people know, I very rarely censor myself. So I just a little more behaved in the show. True story. But yes, in looking at all of this in our lives, you know, in looking at all of it, we really don't take good enough care of ourselves. And when we don't, that's when really, you know, to be fair, that's when the shit hits the fan. That's when things get really rocky. That's when it becomes a slippery slope. So that being the case, I cannot stress enough getting it out of your system. I cannot stress enough, if you need to talk to someone, even if it's not the person, even if you need a soundboard, as Q said, if you need a soundboard just to talk it through with someone else, to kind of have a tactful way of connecting with another person, you could do that. It shouldn't be a bitch session where you're not going to have any kind of resolution, but having the ability to get out of your system where you can breathe and you can go back to homeostasis, you can go back into balance. Because being uprooted and in that situation, being in that sense of chaos, it's not going to do you any good. You're not going to be productive. You're not going to be effective. You're just going to have a lot of problems from that. It's not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. So a lot of these little methods are methods that you can utilize. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to journal. If you know a different language, then write it in your own language, your own native language. Record it, paint it, express it in one way, any possible way to get it out of your system. Now, journal writing has altered things to so many other ways. It got me into radio. It got me into doing some TV work. It got me into actually outlining stories and novels. I have like a few books that I need to write. And all that started from journaling. That could be the stepping stone to you becoming even more amazing than who you already are. You know? And if you don't want it, as Kathy is saying, you don't want it, you could burn it. If it's not good, if it's something that you don't like it, if it's something that it was cathartic in the sense of I just want to get it out of my system and gone, burn it and let God, source, the creator, Mother Nature, the wind, take it. That's also. And again, you can get journals almost anywhere. You can get journals at Job Lot. You can get journals at the dollar store. You don't have to pay a lot of money for a journal. You could use notebooks. You know, for example, this is one of my old ones is right here. Look at that little journal that I can carry around. Portable notebooks. Composition books. I've written in composition books. You know, you can make your own. Absolutely. You can use a loose leaf binder. All those things are valuable moonsights and tips and tricks that you could go ahead and do for you to be more efficient, mind, body, and spirit, for you to be a better person for yourself and others, a new you. And who doesn't need a new improved you? We all can use improvement. So a lot of these ways of that I offer are things that I've done myself and things that people in this room have done. And they're powerful methods. And they're only as powerful as you make them, or if you employ them, or if you make them work, or if you do them. You're not going to win the lottery unless you play, right? So it's kind of like that. Make it a regular practice of expressing yourself. That's really, really important. And if you do that, you'll find yourself getting better and better every day. You'll find yourself improving. You'll find you're going to be a lot sharper in the way you think. You're going to notice your health is going to get a lot better. You're going to notice that your communication skills, you're going to hone in those communication skills more so when you're talking to someone. So you're not going to be reactive. You're automatically listening to what they're saying. And instead of wondering what I'm going to say to counteract what they're saying, you're actually actively listening to what they're saying. You're actually listening to them and then thinking and then responding. That's pretty good stuff. And Kathy's saying, I may have showed you my journals. I like to make them for my friends. Oh, that is so cool. And there's also, if you want to do like a gratitude journal, you can spend some good money on journals. There are a lot of handmade paper, post-consumer waste paper that they've made journals out of. You can get them from Barnes and Noble. You can get them at a lot of bookstores. That's also very, very cool places you can get them at. I wouldn't use a crap journal. I wouldn't use the crap journal method with a really nice journal. That I wouldn't do. I would utilize composition paper or a dollar store notebook for that kind of thing. So that way you can toss it, throw it out, do whatever you got to do with it. Burn it. That kind of thing. But if it's something you want to keep, something that you want to pass on, that information, if there's something that you want to use as something to get into a book, then you could use a nicer journal. Right. And I'm glad you said that, Anna. This is another little trick and tip too, is if it's too pretty of a journal, write in it. And I'll tell you why. And also too, I will say, Kathy, that's an awesome idea, the blank journals. I never get lined journals. I tend to like them blank so I can write in it. There's no lines, so I can draw or sketch. I can do all that. I started off with lined journals and I was drawing in them, and they kind of got a little funny because then you got lines to deal with that. Welcome, Jonathan. But they do have blank paper journals that you could write in, you could draw in, and you can utilize it like that, like a travel journal. I do have one of those. And most places I've been to, I've written reflections and things I've learned and things I've experienced while out on a walkabout, if you will, and put them down in a travel journal. But it's really, I'm sure you would. If my journal spoke, God help us. I can tell you that's some crazy stuff for sure. But ultimately, start off with grabbing a journal or opening up your sound recorder on your machine. Regardless, it doesn't matter if it's PC or Apple, do something. Start a private vlog. The important thing is this: express yourself. Get it out there. Get it out of your body. If it's something great, if it's something fantastic for you to share, then share it. Do a Medium post. Do it that way. Have a vlog. Hey, Caroline. Yes, just do it. Just like Nike says, just do it. If it's something you don't want to share, that's fine. But get it out of yourself. Get it out of your body. Express it. Express yourself. For example, Caroline is an artist. She's actually an amazing artist. So if you'd like to check her out, and yes, I am pimping out people I know in here. But Caroline's an amazing artist. You can see her website on my web friend, on my friends links on my website. And that's the way she expresses herself. And she does an excellent job, by the way. Express yourself. That's right. And I won't sing Madonna. No. But in clothing, well, see that? Talk about Freudian slip. Okay. In closing, in summary, wow. Yeah. It is a little warm here. Just saying. I may have been a little feverish for a second there. I know. And AZ is way warm. But in summary, get yourself out there, express yourself, get on YouTube, write in a journal, have a gratitude journal, have a crap journal, whatever is going to get you out there. And that's another little tidbit too. And I'm glad that Q just mentioned that, because I was in a bookstore recently while I was away for the past few days. And I was in this really cute gift shop, and they had mandala coloring books. This is adults. This is adult coloring books. They had mandalas. You can color. That's another way of getting it out there. And I believe Marissa does some of that coloring as well. And you know what? I know I've colored in all kinds of coloring books as well. And sometimes I've just gone to the dollar store and picked up some whatever coloring books. If they were nice enough artwork, I colored it in them. So yeah, but express yourself. If you do that, you're going to be a better you. I can guarantee, and that doesn't come often, guarantee that you are going to find yourself feeling better. A lot of things are going to get smoother just by you getting things out of your mind, out of your brain, out of your body, just by expressing yourself verbally, physically, psychically. Definitely. And Marissa, she'll go work out and she'll listen to other people blabbing. Right? And also Caroline does her artwork as well with having conversation in the background, which is phenomenal. So express yourself, people. Be you. And I'm going to close this up, but I want to thank everybody for spending time with me here on Insight with Moonshadow. It is all of you that inspire me to do this, to do this work and to do the show on a weekly basis. So just remember, be strong, be amazing, be you. And see you next week.